The bloodthorn hung like a wound in the stars, its black hole devouring light. The red insignia of the Von Marauders glowing faintly along its armored spine. Deep within its command deck, Commander Drosk stood rigid and silent, six-clawed, fingers folded behind his back, his golden eyes fixed on the swirling orb below Earth. The viewport bathed his scaled face in soft blues and greens, an innocent marble floating in the void. He sneered, his lips curling to expose glinting fangs. "Is the Deathworld they fear?" He growled, the words thick with disdain. The bridge was silent, except for the soft hum of life support systems and the clicking of claws against metal as Lieutenant Kree approached. The smaller Vaughn bowed low, his breathing rasping through his filtration mask. "Scans complete, Commander. Atmospheric readings are stable. Gravity is tolerable. Radiation within acceptable limits. There are signs of intelligent habitation. But primitive." Drosk gave a low, grating laugh. "Stable, tolerable, acceptable. And they claim this is a death world." He turned, the bones of his back armor shifting with menace. Sulak Prime could crush this planet into dust with a single storm. Our hatchlings are born under acid clouds and sharpen their fangs on volcanic stone. And yet, the humans here claim they are Deathworlders. Kree tilted his head. "Shall we ready the orbital bombardment?" Drosk's eyes narrowed. "No," he said slowly. "We do not waste fire on children's gardens." He turned back toward the viewport. "We descend. We land. We hunt. Let the humans see what it means to walk beneath real predators." A deep vibration shuddered through the bloodthorn as red warning glyphs ignited along the deployment banks. Across the warship, Vaughn soldiers armed themselves with bio-sheathed blades and pulse rifles, their armor plates twitching as they sensed with combat instincts honed on 10,000 worlds. The drop pods hissed open like fanged maws, releasing waves of engineered death dot as the commander stepped into his personal pod. The walls closed around him, tight and damp like the gullet of a beast. His breathing steadied. "This is no war," he muttered. "This is a lesson." The silence of space gave way to the violent roar of re-entry. Flames licked the edges of the descending pods as they tore through Earth's upper atmosphere like falling stars. Below them stretched white wilderness and dark pine forests, a landscape soft and slow compared to Sulak's brutal terrain. Drosk's pod struck ground with a crack that echoed through the trees, snow exploding outward like dust. The hatch blew open. He stepped out into the cold, scanning the forest with narrowed eyes. The air was sharp, clean, the snow knee-deep. Around him, other pods landed in thunderous bursts, disgorging snarling Vaughn warriors. "Welcome to paradise," Drosk murmured, raising his clawed hand and signaling the advance. Snow crunched beneath, armored boots as the invaders spread into the forest like a shadow, unaware they had just stepped into a world that would not welcome them and would never forget them. Asterisk snow drifted in lazy spirals through the tall pines, coating every branch in white silence. The VA marauders moved through it like wolves among sheep, or so they believed. Their footfalls were heavy, armor-clad boots sinking into the powder. Their biosuits hummed softly, regulating heat and dispersing trace chemicals that would normally attract predators. But Earth wasn't like other worlds they'd conquered. Earth watched. Drosk stomped through the underbrush, scanning the horizon with his enhanced visor. "Spread formation," he growled over comms. "Seek signs of resistance. Take prisoners if possible. I want a demonstration." "Understood," Lieutenant Kree replied. He was already ahead, clawed hands casually snapping a pine trunk in half to test its density. The broken wood splintered with a crack. "Primitive flora," he hissed. "Hollow. Weak." The others echoed his contempt with low, chittering laughter. The terrain stretched endlessly. White hills, trees like spears, frozen creeks. No cities, no roads, not even smoke. It was all wild a child's painting of a forest. They expected technology, cities, resistance, but there was nothing but cold wind and bird calls. "This is a ghost planet," muttered one Vaughn scout. "Then we'll find the ghosts and kill them," Drosk snapped. Then it happened. A soft thump struck Drosk's faceplate, just below his left eye. It splattered against his visor with cold wetness, clinging and sliding down in slow drips. He froze. The bridge of his snout twitched. The acidic saliva in his mouth sizzled as it hit the snow. What in Suluk's name was that? Another thump followed, this time striking Kree square in the chest. A soft splat of compact snow. A snowball. Drosk turned sharply, scanning the tree line. And there, standing atop a half-buried stump in a bright red winter coat, cheeks rosy from the cold, was a human child. No older than 10 Earth years. Wide blue eyes. Holding another snowball in his gloved hand like it was a grenade. "You're ugly," the child said flatly. "Go home." For a moment, no one moved. The Marauders stood dumbstruck, their weapons slack in their claws. Then came the laughter-chittering, raspy, cruel. Kree stepped forward, claws flexing. "Shall I silence this one, Commander?" He never got the chance. A sharp crack of breaking wood rang out behind him, then another. The shadows between. The trees shifted. Dozens of shapes emerged. Tall, painted, moving with calm purpose. Humans, camouflaged in white, wrapped in furs and snow gear, rifles steady, faces unreadable. They fanned out like an ancient war party, encircling the Marauders. With ghost-like precision, the boy darted behind them without fear, vanishing into the folds of one hunter's coat. A woman stepped forward. Her face was pale and sharp. Her breath puffed visibly in the cold. Across her back was slung a bolt-action rifle nearly as tall. As she was, "You all right, kiddo?" she asked over her shoulder. The child grinned. "Told you I could distract them." Drosk hissed in disbelief, claws curling. Pathetic. "You think this trap matters? You think your sticks will stop us?" The woman's eyes never wavered. Her mouth curved into something not quite a smile more like the baring of teeth. "Welcome to the real Deathworld, monster," she said. Then she whistled, and the trees erupted with gunfire. The first shot wasn't loud dot, cracked through. The frozen stillness like a tree branch snapping under its own weight, but the effect was immediate. One of Drosk's soldiers jerked backward, armor flaring as a round punched clean through his visor. He fell in silence, a hiss of steam, rising from the sudden heat of impact meeting the cold. The forest came alive. Muzzle, flashes blinked like fireflies in the snow-covered gloom. Sharp, disciplined bursts of gunfire cut through the pines, then vanished. The human hunters didn't scream. They didn't roar. They moved like phantoms, fading between trees, ducking behind drifts, their tracks vanishing as fast as they were. "Made. Return fire," Drosk bellowed, voice raw. But the Marauders were built for frontal war, for battlefield brutality. They weren't prepared for this ambushes from unseen enemies, bullets that struck and vanished, opponents who didn't fight to dominate, but to disappear. Kree spun and fired a plasma burst into the trees. It struck a trunk, igniting it, but nobody fell, no scream. Just more silence, more wind, more snow. "They're hiding," he snarled. "Cowards." "They're hunting," Drosk corrected coldly, eyes darting between flickers of movement. "This planet, it protects them." He dropped to a crouch, scanning thermals. Flickers, shapes that moved too quickly, too quietly. The VA formation splintered as soldiers tried to find cover, but there was none. The forest didn't offer safety. It offered deception. Roots curled. Like traps beneath the snow, trees shielded the enemy. Hills broke line of sight. Shadows were filled with eyes. One Vaughn warrior charged toward a flicker of movement, only for the ground beneath him to collapse. A hidden pit trap, sharpened branches inside. He screamed once, then was gone. Another turned to run and hit a tripwire. Strung between two saplings, a cluster of small explosives hidden in the snow erupted, shredding his armor and leaving nothing but silence behind. These aren't soldiers, Kree hissed. Where is their command structure, their base? There. Strategy? Drosk's breathing grew shallow. They don't need one, he muttered. This is strategy. This is the battlefield. The hunters began to push forward. Not recklessly, but with precise surgical control. Every movement was deliberate. Every shot counted. They didn't fire to scare. They fired to kill the child. Bared again further, back now, sitting high in the branches of a tree. He dangled a snowball lazily in one hand, watching the chaos unfold with the calm confidence of someone who already knew how this would end. You're not very good at this, he called down. Too loud, too slow. Kree raised his weapon to fire, but the woman appeared beside the boy rifle already aimed. Don't, she said. One word. Cold. Final. Kree hesitated just for a heartbeat, and that was all she needed. The rifle cracked. Kree dropped, smoke rising from the hole between his eyes. Drosk's roar shook the trees. He turned and fired wildly into the forest. Trees splintered, snow exploded, but nothing screamed. Nothing fell. The humans were gone again. Gone, but watching. Gone, but closing in. The VA Marauders were elite killers forged on a hellworld, but Earth was something else. It didn't just kill it waited and it watched you fall apart. The storm came without warning. One moment, the forest was still gunfire echoing into silence, and the next, the wind howled like a living thing. The temperature plunged. Snow whipped sideways in savage gusts, stinging even through Drosk's helmet. The sky turned to ash. Vision dropped to meters. Drosk stood frozen beneath a shattered pine, his armor's temperature regulators whining in protest. Frost was already crawling across his gauntlets, forming a web of delicate death. Report, he barked into combs. Static answered. He tried again. Kree, respond. Only hissing wind replied. His claws clenched. Kree was dead. Half his squad gone. Not in glorious combat, not in open war, but hunted, ambushed, and outlasted. The shame clawed deeper than any bullet. He began trudging forward, one heavy step at a time, each footfall sinking into snow that seemed to rise faster than he could move. His boots cracked through ice-crusted roots and sunken ground. There was no path, no logic to this terrain. Earth's wilderness moved like a maze built to confuse the alien mind. The VA were used to surviving volcanic storms and bone-shattering quakes, but they weren't built for this kind of cold. Not for the creeping chill that seeped under armor, froze breath to the inside of visors, and turned fluid lines into brittle strands. A figure stumbled from the tree's Vaughn warrior Teksha, her armor half encased in ice, one arm dangling useless. Commander. She croaked. My systems ... shutting down. Push through it, Drosk snapped. You're Vaughn. But her knees buckled, and she collapsed into the snow. Steam rose from her body. Her armor's core was dead. She was gone before he knelt beside her. Another silhouette moved through the haze, shouting only to disappear into a pitfall. The scream was quick. A gurgle followed. Drosk didn't look. He pressed forward, shoulders hunched against the white fury. The blizzard wasn't weather. It was punishment. It didn't just obstruct, it hunted. His visor blinked. Warnings in red. Thermal integrity failing life support limit exceeded navigation LOist. He switched to infrared only to see a sea of white. Earth was cold in more ways than temperature. It was clever. It turned every advantage into a trap. Even the heat signature of predators was swallowed by the storm. A howl echoed. Not human. Not Vaughn. Something native. Wolves. He caught their movement at the edge's gray shadows weaving through the white, low and silent. Watching. Waiting. Scavengers, perhaps, but smart ones. They knew weakness when they smelled it. They circled the dead and dying Vaughn, never engaging, never wasting energy. Drosk raised his pulse rifle and fired a warning shot into the air. The wolves didn't flinch. This planet doesn't respect power, he realized. It respects patience, and it respects those who know when to disappear. He stumbled against a slope, sliding down into a gully. Ice cracked beneath him, and freezing water surged up around his boots. He growled in fury and wrenched free, panting, armor-soaked. Every breath hurt now. Every step was a war. He'd landed expecting prey. Instead, the planet had turned him into one. He fell to one knee beside a half-buried tree, its branches shielding a small hollow from the wind. His armor systems wheezed. He dug in, trying to create shelter, trying to think. But all he could think about was Kree's body in the snow. And the child's voice, echoing in memory. You're not scary, just loud. For the first time in his life, Drosk wasn't sure if he'd survive till morning. Drosk didn't sleep. He couldn't. Not from the cold, though it gnawed at him like teeth, but from the sounds. The whispers of shifting snow, the crunch of distant footsteps, the low, almost taunting hoots of owls overhead. Every noise felt intentional, as if the forest itself was breathing around him. And always the wind. He sat with his back to the half-fallen tree, armored claws curled around the barely glowing core of a scavenged plasma rifle, trying to draw heat from it like a dying ember. Steam coiled up from his joints. His breath was ragged, frosting the inside of his visor. The blizzard had passed, but the cold had deepened. The kind of deep that seeped into memory. Footsteps approached, not heavy-like. Vaughn, not hurried, measured, confident. Drosk raised his rifle with trembling arms and stopped. The child. Again. Standing atop a branch, just above eye level. As if gravity didn't quite apply to him. His red winter coat now dusted white with snow. Cheeks pink, eyes bright with something Drosk didn't yet understand. Your planet sounds scary, the boy said softly. With all those storms, all those monsters. Drosk bared his fangs, too weak to rise, too proud to beg. Leave, he hissed. I'll tear you apart. The boy tilted his head. Maybe, but not before the others come. A subtle shift. In the snow behind him, not loud, not close, just present. Dozens of tiny movements. Like the forest had opened its eyes. You hunt because you have to, the boy continued. We hunt because we choose to. We're not Deathworlders because Earth tries to kill us. He leaned forward slightly, eyes gleaming. We're Deathworlders because it taught us how to fight back. Then he was gone back into the branches. Like a breath of wind. And then the night truly came alive. A burst of gunfire to the left. A scream to the right. Drosk could only listen, watch, hear his warriors die one by one. A massive Vaughn, armored in thick plating, burst from the trees 30 meters ahead, his left side shredded, roaring in pain. He didn't make it 5 steps before a wire tightened across his legs, flipping him onto his back. A second later, a silent crack split the air. A bullet to the throat. He gurgled once and stilled. They weren't using energy weapons. Not lasers. Not plasma. They were using bullets, projectiles, ancient tools, but precise, Powerful, reliable in cold that shattered advanced tech. Dross crawled forward, gripping his rifle. His pride had bled out somewhere in the snow. Now he was only thinking about escape, survival. That word burned worse than the frostbite chewing at his joints. A shape moved just ahead, silent as the snowfall. A human hunter, wrapped in white furs, rifle slung, hat pulled low. She knelt beside one of Drosk's fallen troops, took something from his armor, and stood again. Calm, efficient, unafraid. She turned her head and saw him. They locked eyes. Drosk braced for the shot, but she didn't raise her weapon. Instead, she touched 2 fingers to her brow, a strange salute. Then she vanished into the trees. He didn't understand. Why didn't she kill him? Then it struck him like a blade to the heart. They weren't hunting him to win anymore. They were hunting to teach. This was humiliation. This was the lesson. You are not the apex predator here. You never were. Asterisk, the sun rose reluctantly, a pale disk smudged behind layers of gray cloud. It cast no warmth, only revealing more of the world that had turned against them. The once proud war band of VA marauders was now shattered. Their coms were dead, their formations broken, their legend unraveling in the snowdrifts of a world that did not forgive mistakes. Drosk moved slowly now, dragging his left leg, armor joint frozen solid at the knee. His breath rasped with each step, condensation freezing around the edges of his cracked faceplate. A thin trail of dark blue blood followed him in the snow. His own. He wasn't alone. 2 other surviving Vaughn trailed behind him, both limping, one cradling a shattered forearm, the other missing half his helmet and blinking against the icy wind. Their claws twitched, their backs hunched. Predators reduced to prey. This planet. It won't end us in one strike, one muttered bitterly. It wants us to die slowly, like it enjoys it. Drosk didn't answer. He was too busy watching. The trees. The way the wind moved differently in certain branches. The way certain patches of snow looked disturbed. He saw the signs now. It wasn't just the humans. The planet was against them. Another tree snapped somewhere behind them loud. Sudden. They froze, but it wasn't a falling limb. It was a signal. Moments later, a barrage of gunfire burst from the tree line. One of the 2 warriors behind Drosk spun and dropped without a sound 2 precise rounds through his chest. The last remaining Vaughn roared and raised his claws in blind fury, charging toward the trees. He made it 3 steps. The snow beneath him collapsed. He fell with a scream into a concealed pit lined with jagged metal and sharpened bone. The scream turned into a choking gurgle. Drosk didn't move. He stared into the trees, panting. He was alone now. His systems were failing. No warmth. Number. Comes. No tracking. Just the planet. Just the cold. Just them. He stumbled forward, cresting a small ridge that overlooked the remains of what might have once been a logging station, now abandoned and reclaimed by the wilderness. The buildings were skeletons of wood and rust. No lights. No people. Only silence. He staggered into the ruins, hoping for anything shelter. Heat supplies. Instead, he found a wall. Not a literal one. This was psychological. Scratched into a wooden plank near a collapsed building was a crude but unmistakable symbol. A skull wearing a winter hat. Below it, words burned into the wood with fire. This is our world. We never left it. You did. It hit him like a memory. The humans never fled. They never regrouped. Never retreated. They had been here, surrounding the VA from the moment they landed, watching, waiting, guiding the battlefield like hunters with a trapped animal. And worse, they'd adapted. Every new tactic the Marauders used had been countered within hours. Every patrol route ambushed. Every fallback position exposed. Humans weren't just surviving. They were learning. He fell to his knees, claws digging into the frozen earth. Sulak Prime had raised him to be a monster. He had conquered jungles, deserts, acid plains, and the vacuum of drifting moons. But here on this beautiful, terrible world, he was being taught. They weren't just better predators. They were better students. And Earth, this damned, gentle-looking place, was the greatest teacher of all. Drosk lay in the ruins of the abandoned outpost, his armor cracked and steaming, his claws trembling from cold and exhaustion. His breath came in shallow pulls, every inhale stinging like broken glass. The last of his pride had been stripped away, scattered with the bodies of his soldiers in the white silence beyond. The wind had softened, no longer howling, just whispering now, like it was watching him. Like it knew. He tried to stand and failed. The servos in his leg armor sparked and died. His left knee gave out completely, forcing him to slump against a fallen beam. He gritted his teeth, the sharp ache of failure settling deeper than the wounds dotted. Wasn't supposed to end this way. He was a war-bred alpha of Sulak Prime, a conqueror, a creature of legend. He had stood atop the skulls of slain Xeno leaders, breathed in the firestorms of volcanic moons, bathed in the ash of annihilated colonies. But none of those worlds had done this to him. None had refused to fight the way. He understood war. This planet hadn't crushed his forces with firepower. It had dismantled them piece by piece, slowly, patiently, with snow and silence, and a child's voice. And then there it was again. Soft footfalls. He looked up. The boy stood before him once more, small, bright red coat, not shivering, not armed. Just watching him. How? Drosk rasped, throat raw. How are you everywhere? The child tilted his head. We're not everywhere. We're just where you don't expect us. He crouched beside Drosk, not afraid. You came to show us how real Deathworlders fight, the boy said, voice quiet but firm. But you don't understand what that means. Drosk snarled weakly. We are forged in storms, born under fire, raised by predators. The boy nodded. Cool, but you were built to survive. We had to learn. Every generation, every winter, every war. We adapted. Drosk blinked. Adapted? The boy's eyes gleamed in the gray light. You conquered planets. We learned from ours. That's why you lost. Silence fell. Thick, final. Then a figure moved behind the boy. The same woman from before, the one with the bolt-action rifle and the calm voice. She stepped into view, snow crunching softly beneath her boots. She looked at Drosk without malice. No gloating, no cruelty. Just quiet understanding. You came here looking for monsters, she said. But Earth doesn't breed monsters. It breeds survivors. She raised the rifle slowly, respectfully. You taught us how to win, Drosk whispered, by showing us what to fear. No, the woman replied. You reminded us why we survive. And then one shot. Clean. The world went black. No pain. Just stillness. The wind blew over the ruins once more. Somewhere nearby, a wolf howled. Trees stood tall. And Earth, ancient and watching, said nothing. 2 weeks later, a VA recovery frigate cut through Earth's outer atmosphere like a knife through silk. The spear of Sulak, gleaming with obsidian plating and crimson war markings, hovered in low orbit over the Canadian forests. Its hull still bore the scars of past victories, lightning-scorched from Draxel storms, dented by plasma impacts from the siege of Viren Delta, but never had it responded to a distress beacon like this. Commander Korsh, newly promoted, stood silently on the bridge, staring at the icy landscape below. His mandibles clicked in unease. The emergency ping from Bloodthorn had gone silent days ago. No returning signals. No life signatures. Just ... cold. Scans complete, reported the technician. Trace biosigns faint. All of them ... human. Korsh's eyes narrowed. No. Vaughn survivors? The tech hesitated. Possibly ... 3. Maybe less. Conditions are hostile. The terrain ... difficult. Suluk is hostile, Korsh snapped. This is just snow. But he wasn't so sure anymore. Drop teams descended. In armored squads, armed to the fangs, fanning out through the white forests with caution. What they found chilled more than the blizzard. Cracked armor half buried in snow, blood frozen mid-spill, skinned trees stripped of bark, advanced bioweapons discarded, coated in frost. No signs of a battle dash, just ... erasure, like the planet had swallowed them whole. And the Vaughn they did recover? Silent, staring, shivering. One survivor repeated the same phrase, over and over in a rasped whisper. They didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like the storm. In the center of the extraction zone, a crude wooden totem had been planted. It was built from splintered VA armor, melted rifle parts, and a child's red scarf, gently fluttering in the cold wind. Carved into the wood, burned deep by fire, Earth doesn't roar. It waits. That message reached Sulak Prime within cycles. The High Brood convened in silence, reviewing the recovered footage, the biometric data, the field recordings. Each image more damning than the last Commander Drosk reduced to crawling in the ice. Snow, his soldiers outmaneuvered by shadowy human figures, weapons neutralized by weather and traps. Tactics outpaced by adaptation. That it wasn't just the loss. That it was how they lost. That no massive army. That no planetary defense grid. That no great alien weapon. Just a child, a woman with a rifle, and a world that refused to bow. In the heart of the Marauders. Hall of trophies, beneath the skulls of conquered war beasts and banners of fallen empires. A new addition was placed on the wall of shame. Item: a cracked VA helmet, a data core with a corrupted mission log, a piece of wood with the Earth sigil, etched in ash status. Yuan Seong Huli planet name, Earth, Sol 3. Classification: Fob IDDN from. That day forward, no Vaughn Marauder ever set course for Sol again. Not out of fear of war. But fear of silence. Because they had learned the hardest truth of all. The deadliest Deathworlders weren't the ones born to survive. They were the ones who learned how, and who smiled while the storm closed in. Asterisk